Sarah, grinst du gerade so, weil du eine gute Frage stellst, oder? Nein? Auf geht's, Leute. Nutzt die Gelegenheit. So nah kommen wir nicht mehr so schnell an sie ran.
Mir fällt sicher noch was ein.
Da bin ich ganz fest von überzeugt. Genau. Und es ist ganz lieb, wenn ihr die Monitore einschaltet, weil das ist so ein bisschen unbefriedigend, wenn man vor schwarzen Kästchen sitzt. Super. Danke, Tanja.
Guten Abend.
Servus. Hallo, Lukas. Hallo, Alex. Sehr, sehr stark. Stefanie, hi. Super. Was hast du gesagt, Stine? Stine, was hast du gesagt? Leise sein. Hedwig auch, super.
Viele unterstützen.
Genau, wenn ihr schaut, da unten gibt es die Möglichkeit, da steht Chat. Da könnt ihr, wenn ihr wollt, die ersten Fragen schon reinstellen, wenn jemand Fragen hat. Wir haben vorhin schon überlegt, ob sie gerne flucht. Es wird spannend heute, weil sie ja gerne, also sie hat einen recht anspruchsvollen Akzent, Manchester, wenn ich das richtig verstanden habe, und wird nicht so leicht sein zu verstehen. Wir müssen heute ganz leise sein, alle.
So wie jetzt, oder?
Mhm.
Ja, ja, das ist perfekt. Ihr könnt im Moment noch laut sein, ihr könnt euch ruhig laut stellen. Also. Braucht noch gar nicht leise sein im Moment.
Ist schon klar, was für Equipment wir brauchen?
Ja, ihr braucht den Chat, ihr braucht gute Fragen, ihr braucht, sonst braucht ihr eigentlich gar nichts weiter. Also es ist wirklich ein Q&A heute.
Die Tastatur.
Ja, genau. Genau, es sind ganz viele dazugekommen.
Marco.
Also David, es gibt kein Workout heute, das ist ein Q&A. Also einfach Fragen stellen, die dich brennend interessieren.
Wobei, wenn ihr wollt, stellt die Frage, ob sie ein kurzes Workout mit uns macht. Also alles
Ja,
ist möglich.
das ist die Frage, alles ist legitim. Vielleicht hat sie ja heute erst
Legitim.
einmal trainiert oder erst zweimal und dann kann sie noch ein drittes Mal machen.
Aber stellt euch dann auf was ganz, ganz Schlimmes ein.
Jens, du bist ja auch da.
Ja, ich bin da.
Endlich.
schon
Das ist
gesagt.
verwundert.
Kein Tag ohne mich.
Offensichtlich, ja. Das war heute Morgen auch sehr erfolgreich.
Wir sind so arm, wir müssen in unseren Boxen immer Mützen tragen. Laurenz hat eine Mütze auf, Jens hat eine Mütze auf, ich habe eine Mütze auf.
Naja, wir sind in Corona-Zeiten, lassen wir die Heizung manchmal aus, oder? Geht es euch genauso?
Ja,
Das muss
Kostensparen.
kein Vermieter hören.
So, jetzt habe ich auch eine Mütze
Im
auf.
Mietvertrag steht drin, dass du ordentlich heizen musst, weil sonst die Substanz Schaden nimmt.
Steht das bei dir drin, ja?
Ja. Aber ich heiz auch nicht.
So, seid ihr alle happy mit der virtuellen Reise oder nicht happy?
Macht doch alle mal 10 Burpees, wenn ihr happy seid.
Oh, super.
Und macht 500, wenn
Ich
ihr
hab grad
unhappy
gegessen.
Ich wollte
seid.
gerade sagen, deutlich mehr, wenn ihr nicht happy seid.
Genau. 20, wenn ihr nicht happy seid. Also wir beeinflussen die Ergebnisse definitiv nicht.
Da kommt sie.
Da ist sie. Dann pinnen wir sie gleich an. Ich werde sie gleich anpinnen. Samantha, Sam, where are you? Ah, there are you. Nice, nice, nice. Welcome. You need to unmute yourself.
Muted. Unmuted.
Unmuted and spotlight for everyone. You are spotlight now. Welcome, Sam.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming.
Sorry that there's a lot of sun coming in, but my dog's asleep on me, so I can't actually move anywhere.
Awesome. Cool. So the sun comes in, that makes you even brighter, even more light on you. Very, very nice. Cool. Let's wait for 2 or 3 more minutes and then we start, because still people moving in.
Yep, no problem.
Cool. Where are you at the moment?
I'm in Ohio. Ohio.
Ohio. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Cincinnati. I bought a house out here last August. So all just settled in now, just finally starting to get things in place. We were without a sofa for a long time, so this is nice that I can sit down.
Cool. Okay, since when you have the sofa at home?
It didn't come until just before Christmas. So we were from August until Christmas because of COVID, everything was taking so long. And so they were like, oh yeah, it'll be at least 12 weeks to get the sofa. We were like, 12 weeks?
So it was a fantastic Christmas present, wasn't it?
No, definitely nice.
Okay, cool. Ohio. Okay, how come that you choose Ohio?
I was out here 2014, 2015. And that's when I met my partner. And then my visa ran out and I was then back in the UK, and it took 4 years to get my green card. So it took a long time to get back out here.
Okay, cool. How's the situation with COVID at your place?
We're quite lucky at the moment. Everything's still open. We have to wear masks and stuff, but at the moment, gyms are still open. So we're in a very lucky position, I think.
Okay, cool. So the numbers are still not that high in Ohio.
Yeah, I think like each states are different. I know like California, I think I've gone back down into gyms are closed and they have to exercise outside. But right now over here, we're still allowed. You're still limited on class sizes. You still have to be spread out and stuff. But at the moment, they're still open.
Awesome. We wish for something like that here in Germany or in the German-speaking countries here in Europe, because we are all now on lockdown and suffer a little bit from this situation.
Yeah, definitely. I know, like speaking to my friends back home, and obviously I'm still part of Train Manchester, like the UK is back in lockdown as well. And it's obviously they've not been as locked down for as long as you guys, but it's still hard to try and navigate around these times. Yeah,
we can't remember that there were times before lockdown. I guess since ever we are in lockdown now.
Yeah.
So it's really, really hard. So, but also thank you to Marco, because he organized that everything from CrossFit Central Wiesbaden. So thank you very much. So and great, and thank you very much that you just made it possible to come. Awesome. Yes. Okay. So Lisa, I think if you like, we can start.
I will take over. I think at least since 2013, everybody knows who you are. I kind of learned about you a little earlier because actually Carl Stedman was my level 1 coach. Like he was on staff and he was also your coach. And I think he liked to use you as an example for crazy volume, which then led to your second name, the engine, because I think nobody can beat you in anything that determines or that needs both a crazy engine and determination. Where others give up, you don't. And we also started with collecting questions from the people that are in this session already for you. And I think we're going to start with some very light, fun question, and start with the question what the biggest, best moment at the CrossFit Games were that you ever had. It doesn't have to be necessarily your win, the obvious, but maybe you have another great story to spark more questions.
I think it's always good to kind of win a workout that you're not expected to win. So I think like from the 2013 games, everybody kind of expected on the marathon, half marathon row that I would win that. But I remember I think it was called the sprint chipper, and it was med ball GHDs with I think it was snatches, and then you had to burpee over a wall and then sprint to the end. And it was, I'm pretty sure it was called a sprint chipper. And I remember the commentators didn't even factor me into that workout because it was like such a short domain. And I actually like won that workout. So I think it's always good to like kind of prove people wrong on some workouts. So like definitely that one kind of like sticks in my mind as like a good one where it's like, there we go, I can do something fast. It's not just something long.
Okay. And what, like speaking on this, what are your favorite movements as well as your most hated movements?
Favorite movements, I love muscle ups, like ring muscle ups, bar muscle ups. I like workouts with a high volume of those in. I think most people know my hated movements. Like I'm anything like overhead squats, handstand walking, same sort of position. Just never been a strong movement for me. And then factor in that I then had shoulder surgery and then had elbow surgery, just makes those movements that were already bad for me even worse.
Katja would like to know, what did you do to get this good as muscle ups? Like crazy strong.
I think it was just something that when I first started CrossFit, bar muscle ups weren't really a thing when I first started, but the ring muscle up, it was kind of classed as the golden star. Like if you could get a muscle up, like anything was possible. So I spent a long time kind of like working on getting the muscle up. And then I sought out in 2012, I actually got a gymnastics coach and started working with a guy called Sean Lind. He did a lot of the stuff for the CrossFit gymnastics. And so I started working with him to really like dial in my technique. And I just really enjoyed kind of like getting that movement like down. And I think when something is so hard to kind of achieve, the feeling that you get when you achieve it is so good. So then to keep pushing it definitely feels good. But it's just time spent working on the technique and working on getting the volume. And that was the same, like obviously coming back from shoulder surgery, I couldn't do muscle ups, and it was like relearning and rebuilding. So it's starting from the basics. For a long time, I was doing ring rows and like doing the turnover on my tiptoes, and then getting the strict movement down before I like started kipping. So yeah, start with the basics, and it's just practice and time and effort.
Okay, and the same goes for your engine, like for your aerobic capacity of doing things. Like I think we all know you played soccer or football, as we call it in Europe before. Were you always good as like maybe especially good at endurance stuff?
I think that just comes from like time spent doing it. Even from a young age, I used to run a lot and bike a lot. My mum used to do a lot of running, so often I'd go running with her. I raced mountain bikes cross country for a spell when I was younger. I ran cross country. When I played football, we would do, especially in the off season, a lot of running. When I was a firefighter, I would, instead of driving to work, I would either cycle or run to work. So like even before I started CrossFit, I was kind of like laying the foundations for that endurance.
Okay. And you're not actively working as a firefighter anymore, right?
No, I took a sabbatical in 2013 and just not gone back.
Okay. Do you miss it?
There's definitely like parts that I miss. I loved being a firefighter. I did it for 10 years. I miss like the camaraderie that you have with the guys. But I definitely don't miss working nights. That was definitely, I think, the biggest game changer and allowed me to take CrossFit to the next level. Just when you're working nights, the recovery, then it eats into the next few days when you like trying to train. You can't train at the same intensity and it can just hinder the recovery.
And now that you're still able to train at a gym and actually be inside somewhere, how does your training look right now? Like how many training sessions do you try to get in per week? Do you separate strength and weightlifting and endurance extra, or?
Yes, so now that we've got a house, I have a garage gym. So I do my morning sessions at home, and that typically is an hour of kind of like mobility, movement flow, getting the body right. And then I do my cardio in the morning with core work and any sort of kind of like rehab, prehab sort of work that I have. I then go into the gym on an afternoon, and that's when I'll do my like strength sessions and any sort of like metcon that I have for that day. So I typically split it into 2 sessions. The morning's definitely a lot more kind of relaxed, and I mean, sometimes the cardio is a hard session, but then the afternoon is definitely a lot more packed in. I'll do, so at the moment, the concentration is squatting. So I'll tend to squat first, and then I'll do my Olympic lifting, which can be a blend with gymnastics and then the metcon and any accessories.
Okay, and how many days a week? Because that sounds still like a lot of volume.
Yes, so that's typically Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday. Thursday, like today, is my active recovery day. So you get to speak to me because I have a little bit more time. And then Sundays are either a full rest day or active recovery as well. And my Tuesdays are a little less intense compared to my biggest days definitely are Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays.
Okay, and what do you do for active recovery?
So my dog put on a little bit of weight over Christmas. So my active recovery was taking him running in the woods. So it's a nice pace because I have to go at his pace. So that was my active recovery today, taking him for a nice run.
Okay.
He'll be a little bit upset that I said that he's put on a little bit of weight, but he
Well,
doesn't like to go out as much because it's so cold. Normally he'd be out playing all the time. So like now I've got to like drag him out. He enjoys the run, but yeah.
Just the getting there.
Yeah.
Actually leaving the house. Good. I have to go through the questions to make sure that I don't miss anything. So since there was not a lot of CrossFit competitions going on or being possible, you did Spartan Games and you did High Rocks.
I did.
How did you like those very different fitness competitions?
So the Spartan Games, so I think it was a week after the CrossFit Games, I got contacted by the Spartan Games. So I'd had a week into my off season where I was eating whatever I wanted and doing very little training. And then they were like, do you want to take part in the Spartan Games? I was like, yeah, of course I do. It's in 2 weeks. Yeah, still want to do. So I think it was a little bit of a wake-up call because it was very different from anything that I've ever done. They didn't really tell us much information. we knew that there would be like a Spartan race and there would be some endurance stuff as well as some lifting. So when they say endurance, obviously in CrossFit, the longest we've ever done endurance wise is the marathon row. So you're looking at kind of like that 3 hour, 3.5 hour mark. Get to the Spartan Games and they have a 5 hour max mountain bike and a 6 hour max trail run. I'm like, that's a little bit more than I've ever done in my whole entire life. And my preparation was I'd done a 40-minute trail run before the Spartan Games and then just my normal CrossFit training. So it was definitely interesting, but it was really cool to have an in-person competition after so many online. They'd done a really good job of putting everything together. We all had to get tested before we got put into a bubble. And then it just meant that the athletes could be relatively like normal. We were able to like compete. We only had to put a mask on when we went like out of the bubble, like when we went to the swim venue and stuff. But for the rest of the time, it was pretty much, we had 4 days and it just felt like we'd gone back to a normal stage of life again. So it was pretty cool. As far as like volume wise and stuff, I saw one of the questions was asking if it was harder than the games. It was very different because I don't train such like high endurance. The effects that had kind of on my body was a lot different to kind of competing at the games. The trail run, definitely, it was over 1,000 foot of elevation each 5 mile loop. So the downhill every time, my hips and my knees were smoked. I lost a toenail. And so like these things are kind of like different to CrossFit. Also as well, kind of like their setup. CrossFit Games, you go, you check in to a really nice hotel. You have people on site that can give you massages and treatment. You get a nice comfy bed at the end of the day. There we were in a barn on camp beds with mattresses that were like this thin. The food wasn't necessarily the best food or what I would normally eat during competition. There was definitely nobody on hand to give a massage. And so just kind of like that effect. So you weren't optimally sleeping, you weren't optimally eating, but you still had to try and perform at your best, was a very different experience. And it kind of like just proved that you are capable of a lot more than kind of what you believe.
Okay. And then High Rocks, maybe not as like wild and out.
It still was in a way. Yeah, so it was really cool to do something different. And I think normally the High Rocks, you run outside or on a track. And because of COVID, and they created this bubble, so in order to have the event, we had to like stay in the venue because we were tested before getting into the venue. So we had to do the event on an assault runner. And I'm pretty sure most people now will have had some experience of being on an assault runner. And we had to run 8K on that runner. Everything else I was really enjoying and I was able to push. And I still felt at the end that I had so much more to give. I finished at the end with 100 unbroken wall balls. So I obviously had the capacity to still be pushing, but I just didn't have the legs to make that runner like go any faster. It was like every time I was walking back to the runner, I was like, I do not want to get on this. I would have done anything else, like make me do burpees, make me go back on the rower, give me a bike, anything, but please don't make me get back on this runner.
So hearing you speak about this, you obviously love competing.
Definitely.
Was there ever a moment where you regretted like putting yourself in this position over and over again, having to prove yourself? And if so, how do you find like the strength to keep going, to motivate yourself again?
I don't think I've ever kind of like regretted it. I think sometimes you feel like there's a lot of pressure on you, especially if you've been doing well in competitions. I know after 2013, there's a lot more people like looking to you and a lot more eyes on you. But I don't think I've ever regretted competing. It's something that I love doing, and that's why I'm still doing it now. I mean, at first I thought I was going to retire in 2016, and now we're in 2021 and I'm still going. So there's definitely no regrets in competing there. I think sometimes like the motivation to train and to push hard can get hard, especially like when it's lockdown, like the first lockdown that we were in, when you're training by yourself and like conditions aren't necessarily optimal. Sometimes the thought is, well, I could just stay on the sofa and relax. I mean, who knows if there's going to be a competition? What am I training for? And it's kind of like trying to silence those voices and just like tell yourself, okay, I'm just going to go and move for 30 minutes. And then often just the act of like going and doing something, you're like, yeah, this is why I do it. I actually enjoy it. Like, I actually enjoy pushing myself. Sometimes you just forget that, and it just takes the act of starting, and then you're like, okay. And then things normally feel better. There's often days where you could be aching and you're really tired and you don't want to train, but then the feeling that you have after training is far better than if you'd have just sat around and done nothing.
Okay. Somebody asked, now that you have done all these different things, or even with CrossFit competitions, are the games really the greatest competition, or are there others that you might like even better?
I think there's definitely like, after being just competing in CrossFit for a long time, I enjoyed kind of like stepping out of that bubble and like trying like the Spartan Games and the High Rocks and meeting different athletes. It was cool to, especially at the Spartan Games, compete against different athletes from such different backgrounds. But like CrossFit's still kind of like my love, so that'll still be there. Whether it's like an official CrossFit like sanctioned competition, or there are others that are big competitions. Like I used to love competing in Dubai before that even became affiliated with CrossFit. So depending on, for me, the more days, the better. Like you've already said, I like volume. And so Dubai's always been that 4 or 5 day competition, a lot of volume. They tend to have some endurance stuff in there. And so I love going to competitions like that. So they don't necessarily have to be like CrossFit competitions, but something where I'm going to be tested over multiple days suits me better as an athlete, because I still tend to be okay to still go on the Sunday when other athletes might be getting a little bit tired. It's like, okay, now I can pick some points up.
Okay, and do you have any future plans to try new sports, like new things? Everybody saw Tia trying bobsledding and all these adventures.
I would love to like be on the UK bobsleigh team. That would be absolutely amazing. But I think in order for me to do it, I would have to have such a strong other person that I could just jump straight in the sled and they could just push me.
Okay. What's the big fascinating with bobsledding? Is it like just the speed that you
like
feel?
Crazy and fast and adrenaline, but like as you've already said, I'm more known for my endurance. My legs are very, very, very much slow twitch. So if I was to push the sled, I don't think we'd be going that fast down the chute.
Right.
But definitely, I like trying new things, and that's why I'd like said yes to the Spartan Games and the High Rocks, especially now that I'm kind of coming more to the end of my CrossFit career. I definitely am like trying more stuff. I love I found a renewed passion for cycling, and I've been doing a lot more cycling than I have in the past. And so that could be something that I do more of as I like stop doing CrossFit.
Okay. I think people are looking for a little bit of, I don't know, dirty laundry. There are several questions about like, who's the most unsympathetic opponent you ever had in a competition? Who's like playing dirty in competitions? If you want to talk about anybody. If not, that's perfectly fine.
I don't know. It's like, I think one of the good things with CrossFit is you tend to meet the athletes at numerous competitions. So you actually like start to get a little bit of rapport with the athletes. And unlike when I used to run for a club and like nobody would speak to anybody, in CrossFit, I think it's a lot nicer and people tend to get some friendships. And I'm trying to think if there's anybody like, I don't think there's anybody that I know of that's kind of like been a dirty competitor or like tried to like shave off anything. I remember like once Camille pushed me over when I was doing a handstand walk, but that wasn't in competition. That was before we did a live announcement.
So we're trying to get her on here as well. We're going to bring it up and just get her side of the story.
Do it. See if she admits to it, because I have photographic evidence of her pushing me over, so we can prove it.
Good.
But like, I've competed with Camille since 2010. It was we both started at the same time. It was both our first games, so I've done a lot of stuff with Camille, and we've definitely had some fun moments. I remember the first live announcement we did together, and you had to pick a walkout song, and I'm trying to think what her song was now. But my song, I picked The Prodigy, Smack My Bitch Up. And she was like singing, and she was like, oh, take my picture. And I'm like, that's not the words. It's smack my bitch up. And she was like, oh. And then she was a little bit like, oh, so it's like that, is it?
All right. Well, we'll write it down. Laura's taking notes. We'll write it down and we'll bring it up to her. As far as CrossFit is concerned, what's your next step? Do you think you're going to compete at the master's class? Are you going to still maybe stir up the young folks?
Hopefully, I'm still going to like touch wood. If I stay like healthy and everything, then I'd like to still like mix it up with the young guns. Like this year I'll be 39. So kind of in my head, it'd be really cool to like still be amongst the young ones next year when I turn 40. And then I think that I'll say, okay, I'm good. You guys run with it. I've done enough now.
This is something we just definitely write down, that you said here that you will stop by the end of this season, or let's say next season. Because
yeah, so have two more seasons. Yeah.
I don't believe you.
You don't believe me? I don't know. It gets harder and harder though.
No.
Like this year I was already double the age of Haley. Like how many more people am I going to be like twice as old as when I'm 40? It's like quite scary.
It is.
So it's, I'm for the next open season and game season, it's the first time that I'm not in the same age bracket as you, because I will already be one up. So it was always my excuse, like, I'm not a competitor. I'm not good at anything, but everybody says my shoulders are stronger than my legs, just like they say about you. And my excuse was always, well, I can't go anywhere as long as Sam Briggs is still training. So you are always my excuse. So this year I have to find something else.
So back in the UK, my flatmate, She the same age as me. So always in the open, Joe, when you can like look at if you're the fittest in the country, and then you can narrow it down that you're the fittest in your city, narrow it down. She's like, I can't even narrow it down to the fittest in my own house. She's like, it is not fair.
Yeah, I get that. I just put it to Germany. Okay. So other questions. There's a new one coming in. Did you change your training much as you got older, or do you still try to hit the same volume as before?
Yes, definitely changed. I still do like relatively high volume, but it's not as high as what I used to do. It's definitely been kind of like trial and error, and just kind of like how much I can push before things start to break down. And we found now, so I used to work in kind of like 6-week blocks, and we've reduced that down, and now my cycle is going 3-week blocks. So this week's a new week, so the weights and intensity is a little bit lower. Next week will ramp up, then the third week will be my most intense week, and then we bring it back down and ramp up. And we found that that at the moment works well for me. I can still have like pretty high volume in that amount of training, just kind of like the intensity and the focus changes. And we've found with that 3-week and then a gradual reduction build up, I'm definitely like, touch wood, staying pretty healthy, feeling pretty good, and like starting to see my numbers rising back up.
Okay, and you already spoke about how important sleep was in your development, like
yes,
no more night shifts.
Like as you get, especially as you get older, I think that's one of the most important things. I try to get like at least 10 hours sleep. That might seem like crazy, but it just allows me to like recover from the amount of training that I do and be able to like go hard again. I think the big realization was the first time that I was on a training camp with Sarah and Adrian Munbalder. Like they weren't going to bed until like midnight, and then getting up and they're like good to go. And I didn't even realize at first. I'd just be kind of like staying up a little bit later, just kind of chatting, watching a bit of TV, watching a movie or whatever. And then we were working out and I was like, I had nothing. I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm like, I feel so bad. I'm like, I can't push. And then I was like, I'm like 10 years older than these guys. I'm like, I need to go to bed. I'm like, you guys stay up, do whatever you want to do. I'm going to bed. And then like the next few days training, I was like, okay, I'm back to it. I can keep up with you guys. I can do it. So I can like maintain the high volume and the intensity as long as I'm getting like the right amount of like sleep. And I definitely think that's like a balance that you have to find. If you don't have the luxury of being able to sleep 10 hours, then you may have to like change how much volume or intensity that you can put in your training just to ensure that you're recovering and able to perform.
And how big of a role does your nutrition play? Like, do you change it up between, obviously, if you have something like an off season, you probably get to eat a little more nice things, but how do you try to balance eating in competition, eating during training?
Yeah, I think I try and eat as clean as possible, like especially in season and especially like in the run up to a competition. And then like right now, my focus is getting fit for the open, but there's not as much kind of like pressure on that. So like it's my friend's birthday, so tonight we're going out for tacos, and I'm going to enjoy those tacos. I'm going to like smash those tacos. It's like, whereas if a big competition was like coming up, then I might like pass on that and just kind of like try and stick to like my nutrition plan, and just try and like definitely the closer you are to the big competitions, the more strict you have to be. So I'd like definitely like after the games, that's what I said about that week where I was like, wasn't like, I have meal prep company. I was like, none of that was meal prepped. It was like, I want to order from here. I'm going to go and eat here. I want this. I'm going to eat cookies. I'm going to get up for breakfast and I'm going to eat a Toblerone because that's what I want.
And then you got cut short after just
Yeah,
1 week.
but I still like, I had a good week.
Yeah. And do you change much of your eating habits during competition? Like,
it's just making sure that you get enough calories in. Sometimes, depending on the competition, you might not be able to eat as regularly or as normal as possible. So you might have to opt for higher calorie kind of options. Nut butters definitely come in handy. And it's just trying to, there's probably more bars and more shakes during a competition because you might not have the time to digest like a full meal before the next event. And then it's trying to then on an evening get like a big meal in so that you're not feeling that you're going into the next day in a calorie deficit.
and then there were 2 questions already about your Insta name. How that came up.
Funnily enough, that came from the good old days when Twitter was more of a thing. And somebody hacked my Twitter account. I can't even remember what my original name was, but somebody hacked it and called it Bicep Like Briggs. They didn't like do anything else with my account or anything. They just changed my name. And so when I got the account like recovered and back, I was like, everybody was like, oh, we actually like that name. So I was like, right, well, cool, let's keep it. And so I changed, like, then when Instagram took over and stuff, I was like, well, I already have my name. Gotta keep it.
Usually you pay a PR firm for that.
I
Come up
know.
with a cool name and stuff.
I know, instead somebody hacking it came up with it. So thank you to whoever did
Yeah,
that.
right? If you are watching now, thank you very much. So somebody remembers the 3-on-1 benchmark you did a few years ago. And your face when the announcement came that there will be 30 bar muscle ups for time as a finisher.
Yeah, I see it. It was their faces. They were already done. And the guys who were filming, they'd already said, let's have a 4th workout, but not tell the guys who were doing the workouts. So I was like, okay, I'm down for that. Anytime. So they were a little bit shocked. They'd gone, I think it was, we have Diane, Fran and Grace, I think, were the workouts. So they'd done one workout, tagged the next person. So they'd given everything they had on these workouts. And I was like, right, come on, we're all doing 30 bar muscle ups for time. They were like, what? No, we're done. I'm like, if I can do it and I've just done all 3 back to back, you guys can do this.
Going over these, there was a question, if you always had like good support from family, friends, the people around you, were they always on board with what you were doing, even though sometimes maybe it looked like it's tough on you?
Yeah, I think I've been very lucky. My mum's always been like highly supportive. So originally I was in school to become a teacher. And when I decided to change and then become a firefighter, my mum was supportive. If this is what you want to do, then like follow your heart. Like, and then when I wanted to stop being a firefighter and become an athlete, like if this is what you want to do and like you're really passionate, then like go for it. I think she would like me to have already retired. She doesn't like it when I'm like injured and like especially when I've had to have surgery and stuff like that. But she's always been very supportive. She's been out to the games to watch and stuff, but she can't actually like watch me. She'll sit and turn around, and then she'll watch it on the footage afterwards that she knows that I'm safe and that I didn't get hurt.
It's funny. How did she react when you moved to the States? Like,
she obviously misses me, and it's been especially hard like this year because of the travel and stuff, because normally I would see more of them, and so she's not been able to come out here, and it took me, so I was in the UK in January, and then as in last January, and then I was stuck out in the States and didn't get back home until the end of November. So it was like 11 months without like seeing them. So that was definitely like probably the hardest that it's like been. So hopefully things will eventually get back to normal. Luckily, like I think we're in a good position that we have things like this that you can still kind of keep in touch. We try to FaceTime like at least every other week and just kind of like text message and stay in touch. So at least we stay in touch. But yeah, I think 2020 was definitely one of the hardest years for anybody that to see family. You don't even need to be like in a different country. Like people in the same country haven't been able to like travel and stuff. So.
can you imagine ever retiring from any sort of competitive sports? And what are your maybe long-term career goals or ideas that you could see yourself doing, let's say 15 years?
Yeah, I think like I was saying, like 40 seems like a good like age. It gets harder and harder to kind of like keep up with like the level of people coming into CrossFit and like competing. So I've already like thought about different things. I love training and I love being competitive. I don't know if I would continue that kind of like into the masters. Kind of like thoughts in my head have been kind of pursuing different avenues. Like I said, I've been enjoying doing a lot more cycling. So I've been looking at different kind of like cycling challenges and stuff like that. So I always want to push myself. So maybe it's time to kind of like redirect that and kind of like see if I can do something a little bit different. I'll always CrossFit, but maybe it'll be nice to just CrossFit train for the sake of training instead of always feeling I have to chase these numbers, I have to chase these times. It'd be nice to kind of like, I can just do what I want today.
Okay. Somebody's interested if you pay any attention to your hormone levels. Like being a woman, we all have the same issues every now and then. Does that kind of influence your training, your approach? Do you dial back on certain days? Change your nutrition?
So I think there was a stage at one point where I probably wasn't eating the right amounts to like the amount of training that I was doing to still have a menstrual cycle. And I did go through a stage where that probably wasn't the healthiest. I feel now I have a good balance and I definitely know a lot more about like eating, and I now I'm able to like still train at a high level but support my body in a more healthier level. I don't track hormone levels and I don't change my training around it. That has been discussed and I have looked into things, but then at the same time kind of I think, well, if I had a competition and it came at the wrong time of the month, I still have to compete. So if I don't train and put myself through that discomfort, then it's going to be even harder than when I'm competing. So I kind of just have to suck it up.
Sure, makes sense. Somebody's asking why you let Froning win open workout 14.5.
That's probably like, you have like some kind of like regrets in your career, and like that's probably one that kind of, it's just a niggle in the back of the head. It's like, oh, could I have pushed? But it's one of those things. It's like when you're hurting and you're hurting really bad, if that had been Annie that was next to me, like I know that I would have pushed because I would not have wanted to let her win. But like the fact that Rich beat me was like, is it that big of a deal? Can I make myself hurt even more to try and beat him? And I just did not want it enough at that time. And like afterwards, I like think back and I'm like, I should have just like pushed. But definitely at the time, I was like, I was hurting like pretty bad. That was a dark place.
Are there any other regrets or things that you are like now looking back to that you either say, should have handled this much better or went another round, as well as those were the moments that now I'm most proud of, like decisions that you made?
I think one of the biggest like learning curves for me, or curves, like events for me, was I've always been known more for kind of like my pacing and to not focus on what other people are doing, just stay like in my lane, stay in my zone. And the one event that I didn't was actually in the 2013 games. And it was the first time that we'd ever had legless rope climbs in a CrossFit event. And I love rope climbs. I love legless rope climbs. I probably a little bit too cocky going into the workout, thinking this is one I can win. And then in my heat, Telena Fortunato, I knew like she was good at rope climbs. I knew that she would be gunning to try and win it. And then I hear the commentator playing off me and Telena saying, oh, Spider Monkey's going for it. And then like, I'm like going for it. And it's the first time that I actually raced somebody. And that year for the legless rope climb, you weren't allowed to put your legs back on the descent either. And we both failed on the 7th rope climb, and we both didn't get another rope climb. That was an event there where we could have come like first and second and picked up some big points. And instead, like, I can't remember what our final finish, but we didn't even finish the workout. And like, luckily for me, I'm going into the 2013 games to try and like podium. And I like go and blow a workout where I should have picked up 100 or 95 points. I'm like, that was not a smart move to make. Luckily for me, like it didn't matter. I still like won the games, but like Telena that year came 4th. So it's like, had she have come like first or second on that rope climb, would that have made a difference? Would she have like stood on the podium? So like that was like such a big like learning event for me. Like afterwards, like looking back on it, it's like never ever run somebody else's race. Know your capabilities, know your game plan, and like stick to it.
Okay, I just get a message that I guess you were asked for 45 minutes of your time and we're already over. Is it okay to finish those questions, or do you have somewhere to be?
I've probably got another 10 minutes. I need to get out of here just at lunchtime. And so we're coming up to 12 o'clock my time. So we've probably got another 10 minutes if
Okay,
you...
Cool. So I'll see the biggest ones that I have missed. Somebody was asking for your supplements that you try to support your training.
Yeah, the biggest thing for me that I've always taken is a high quality fish oil. I think like I definitely notice the difference when I don't take it and I do. And especially when I've been coming back from surgery, I've like upped the dose of fish oil, and I really like think it helps with recovery. I take a glucosamine and creatine. I think like those like are like my top 3 that I like stick with.
Okay. Ring handstand push-ups at the games. What was your reaction to them being announced?
Yeah, at the time I wasn't overly impressed. 2016 was the year that I was having trouble with the shoulder before the shoulder surgery, and so in the warm-up area I couldn't even get one. Actually, like the adrenaline got me through the event. And I think I was a couple of reps short of like actually finishing the workout. So I did a lot better than I thought I was going to do. Looking back on the footage and stuff, the judging standards, I think more so on the guys' side, because they had to do a muscle up into the handstand push-up. There was a lot of variation in the standards. So I think if it was going to be brought back, they would have to kind of like clarify kind of standards on it. But yeah, I don't know. I think you can make a workout just as hard using parallettes, and then you're not putting people in danger of hanging themselves on some straps if they fall through trying to do the ring handstand push-ups. But it was a good challenge.
And then there was another challenge at the Rogue Invitational where you did an unbelievable 211 reps, and it was like not even close to anybody else's score at the end of the workout. Did you know this was one of the events that you would just kill? And how was your feeling like while you were doing it and you were just flat out dominating everybody?
So the way the Rogue Invitational workout ran was pretty weird, because obviously it was online. You weren't allowed any music, anybody cheering. There was no like TV footage, so you didn't know how anybody else was doing. So it was kind of like you against yourself. I'm not known for heavy barbells, but give me like a light or moderate barbell. I love barbell cycling. So when that came up that it was kind of like a death by, I was like, okay, this is something that I can push for. The first part was, I think, 50 reps for time. And then you had a transition rest depending on how fast you were into the like death by. And like knowing like my competitors, I'm more of a taller athlete. So I knew like going all out on the 50, I would never beat Jamie, Green or Tia, just because they're shorter and have less range. So it was never, the 50 was never one that I could beat. So it was like go fast but sensible to kind of like get a good score. And then my aim was to try and like win the death by. And yeah, I had no idea when anybody else stopped if my time was good enough or not. But there was, so the gym that I train at, there's a brewery next door. So they were airing the Rogue Invitational. So all the members were next door drinking beer, watching it while I was there competing. But there was a time delay of the broadcast. So I like finished, got as far as I could get, had nothing left. And then 10 seconds later, they're cheering. I'm like, oh no, I didn't do enough, thinking they were cheering because somebody else was still going. And they were like, no, it's for you. You did it. I was like, yes.
Then how did this feel? Not knowing. And then you find out you just killed it.
That felt good. The next morning, the way my back felt did not feel good. But yeah. It was worth getting a win in.
And then probably last question, since it's 5 minutes to the hour. If it was up to you, regionals or no more regionals?
I loved regionals. They definitely like hold a special like memory. I think I liked the way that the sanctionals were, that like different competitions you could get a different feel. So like, you know, if you went to Dubai, you might be doing some stuff in the desert. You go to Australia, you're going to have an ocean swim. So each competition could have a different feel. But saying that, now that they're bringing it back more to regionals, I hope that because you're only going to have one shot and it's not going to be, you can go to different competitions, that they bring back standardization, because it's not going to be fair if one person goes to a competition and it's a 2-day event and then another person goes to a competition and they're competing for 4 days. And like, I'm hoping that it's going to be back to more of a regional kind of like setup, which will make it cool, because like not everybody can travel. The games is always in America, and not everybody can travel to watch the games. So the regionals, I think, were good that Europeans could actually go and see high level competition without having to pay the expense of the games. So I'm hoping that it's going to bring back these new continentals are going to bring back a regional feel. There's one more like that I've just seen that I'll like take on. So it's talking about when I overtook Fikowski. It wasn't the run on Murph, it was the trail run at the ranch. And the reason that I sprinted and overtook him was exactly because of the regret I had for not beating Rich Froning. So I'm sorry, Brent, but it's Rich's fault. I like can't like live that down. So when I saw you and you were in striking distance, I had to go.
Never again. Well,
yes, cool. Yeah, but there's one question left, I guess. We are all fired up about the Open now, and we want to know any tips here for us, because I mean, the Opens are close at hand now.
Yeah, like I definitely think that like you guys are still in lockdown. Don't focus on kind of like what you can't do. Like if you don't have access to a barbell or you don't have a machine, it's like it's not necessarily like the movements that you are doing, it's the intent and the intensity that you are doing. Like, you know, burpees are going to come up. Like doing things like that, if you have a dumbbell or you have like some plates at home or anything, like thrusters are a good thing to get your heart rate up. Thrusters mixed with burpees, no matter what combination you do them in. And it's just all about pushing yourself into that kind of like dark place, getting yourself used to being uncomfortable, that when the open workouts come out, it's not going to be a big stress. It's like, okay, it might not be a movement that you've been able to practice all the time, but you're used to being in that dark place, you're used to being uncomfortable. So like, do what you can do. Focus on the things that you can take control of.
Sam, thank you very much for being here. Thank you for being our guest. It was awesome. And I think we all just clap and say thank you for this.
Thank you.
thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No worries. See you later.
Thank you. Have a great
Thank
time.
you guys for being here. Danke, dass ihr alle da wart. Dankeschön.
Hoppla. Ein Video weg.
En klaar zit de 58 shot.
Schau, da bin ich wieder mit Mama.
Ich habe ein bisschen Angst.
So. Gut so.
Nice.
Was macht die Heizung, Marco?
Was?
Ja.
Was macht die Heizung?
Gar nichts.
Stehe ich da mit Weste und Mütze und.
Es ist arschkalt hier in der Box. Ehrlich, es ist richtig ekelhaft. Ich hoffe, dass der Vermieter sich jetzt mal ein bisschen muckst, dass das gemacht wird. Weil ich hasse Kälte, ehrlich. Kriege ich voll die Krise.